What's going on with y'all today, man? Let me talk to y'all. Today is the first film review of 2023 on the Fish Flicks channel. I'm your host, Fish Flicks, known as Quested Fisher. Today, the film we're going to be sitting here talking about is the new film that just released in theaters called M3GAN. Now, what is M3GAN about? I'm glad you asked. I'll give you the synopsis for the film right now. So, M3GAN follows the story of a robotics engineer named Gemma, who becomes the new caretaker to her niece, Cady, after Cady's parents die in a car accident. Gemma is unprepared to take care of her niece, so she creates a lifelike doll to help out with the load of taking care of and looking out for Cady, where their bond begins to grow stronger over time, leading to major consequences along the way. Now, if you're like me, you probably looked at the trailers and the posters for this film and thought this was just going to be this generation's version of Chucky, Child's Play, and that's somewhat of what we got. But going into this film, I'd say that it's a bit of a mixture between Chucky and Terminator, because Chucky, you've got the doll-like aspect to it, killer doll aspect to it, and then you got the Terminator side to it, because this M3GAN doll is a robot in this film, so the robot is just increasingly getting smarter and smarter over time, to where the M3GAN doll begins to start doing heinous acts like killing people. And that was my worry about this film, is that this was just going to be another Child's Play ripoff, as this is the month of January, and January is normally the month where studios just dump their bad horror films just to get them released out into the open and try to make a quick buck out of it and try to get some of their money back from this. But this film was produced and made by Blumhouse Productions, and they have a pretty good track history when it comes to the horror films. As of late, as last year, we just got the new film Smile. That was just a bit of a surprise hit. And so after watching this film, what was my thoughts on it? I thought this film was gonna suck. I thought this was just gonna be a throwaway horror movie, but I was actually pleasantly surprised, as this movie is actually very good. I had a lot of fun with it. It's very heartfelt. And it's just an overall great story at the end of the day. You could take away all the horror aspects and all that good stuff. You take all those horror elements out of this, and what you have with this film is a good story about a woman and her niece growing this bond and moving forward with themselves, because Cady, she just recently lost her parents in a car accident, and Gemma is unprepared to be a mom, so they're both trying to figure this out together. And then we go along this journey with them as they go through grief, growth, and this new living situation between the two. And I thought that's where this film really worked strong, and the M3GAN aspect of it, used as a plot device to help grow their relationship, I thought worked out really well. And about the M3GAN doll in this film, she looked great. I don't know how they were able to craft and put this all together, as this film was made at a moderately low budget of only $12 million. That's very low, and that's something that Blumhouse normally is great at in doing, is that they're great at making these very low budget horror films, making them at a smart budget, and just crafting a great story out of it all at the end of the day. It's similar to how Pixar operates in a way, because Pixar, they are an animated film studio, but beforehand, the first thing that they sought to make out of when it comes to making movies is to just making a good story first and foremost at the end of the day, and then focusing on the other stuff that puts the film all together, like animated stuff, and in this case, the horror, the kills, and whatnot. And watching this film, a thing that this film does really well is that it is very self-aware of what this film is, because there are some social messages when it comes to parenting and stuff like that in electronics, and they don't beat you over the head in regards to those messages. They're really thought out and well said, and they're not just forced in there. It naturally fits into the narrative and the story of this film, and this film has a great screenplay altogether as a whole. So it talks about stuff like when it comes to this generation and electronics, the amount of FaceTime that we have, and how some kids, if they're really like connecting to these like robots and these robotic type dolls, and how they'll lose touch of life and connection with a human, and looking for solace and understanding through electronics in a way. And I thought that was very fascinating to me. This film also has some great comedic elements to it, as this is somewhat of a horror comedy. That's why I said this film is as self-aware as it is, because it knows what it's going for. It's not trying to push and be something more than it is. It's playing exactly what it is, and it's a horror comedy film about a young girl and her aunt and them figuring their life together and growing their bond through this M3GAN robot doll. Now, while watching this film, I can tell during the making of this film that they originally had an R-rated cut for this film, and I read a story about it, that this film was originally more bloodier, gorier, and scarier in a way. And I could see that easily in this film, that there is somewhat of a rated R cut to this film out there somewhere. Because when watching this, like some of the kills happen, I'm like, okay, yeah. You could tell they scaled it back some. You could tell they scaled back the blood, the gore, and the horror elements to it, because they want to focus more on the story elements to this film and not letting all those extra horror aspects overshadow the film, because you don't want to get to a point when making a movie where your focus is so much on the kills, the blood and guts, making that the main focus of the film outside of the story. And you could tell they really paid attention and took their time and realized they had a great story to this film and put more emphasis and structure into those aspects of the film as opposed to the blood, guts, and gore. And that's something I really liked and appreciated, because I personally, I'm not the biggest horror movie fan in the world. I hate torture porn movies. I think they're just mindless and so stupid. You got to be a sick motherfucker to be able to want to do that kind of stuff in front of a camera. So I really like that. This is not necessarily a horror film per se. This falls more along the lines of that thriller side. There are horror elements to this film. Of course, it's a very tense and suspenseful moments, but it's got the horror genre in name only just because of the premise and the history of it. Like I said, in regards to Chucky and stuff like that. And this is more of a thriller, and like in the reins of like Get Out, Us, those kinds of horror movies. And that's honestly my favorite kind of horror, is that thriller horror type, because you got a great story on the one hand, you can throw in some good comedic elements that you don't really see too much of in horror movies today, and it all really worked out great at the end of the day. So overall, at the end of the day, I thought this movie M3GAN was a very good film. Great start to the year. It's very smart, it's witty, and it's got some funny moments, and the fact that it's self-aware helps the film a lot, because it's know what it's going for. It knows what type of film it is, and it's a great film, and I recommend you all to go watch this, as this is a PG-13 film. I feel like this is going to be a pretty big hit in the theaters when it comes to teenagers and families just wanting to go out and watch this film. As you can see, this film is already getting memed due to the dancing scenes of this film, of M3GAN dancing and stuff like that. That's great to see. And overall, I recommend you all go watch this film, as I am going to rank this film a solid 3.75 out of 5 on the fish scale. Very fun, very cool, very smart type of horror film that I recommend you all go out and see for yourselves. I'm really glad we're starting off this year on a positive note with a positive movie in the first film of January, because January, like I said, is a dumping ground for films, and studios have been picking up their game when it comes to releasing films in January. Even getting some more quality films released during this month, and that is a great thing to see, as this is a good start to the year. So I think we're in for a really special year when it comes to films, because it is stacked, and I cannot wait to release more film reviews all throughout the year for you guys. So I just want to say thank you so much for being here with me during the first film review of this year. Be on the lookout for future videos and uploads coming your way all throughout. So go ahead and like the video if you can, subscribe to the channel for future videos, and I will see you all on the flip side next time. So I'll talk to you soon. Have a great one.